Well, thank you very much for joining me, McKenna. This is kind of fun just because, a lot of the students that are going to be watching this have no idea what it would even look like to get into grad school or what it even would entail to start that process throughout your undergrad. And one nice thing about what you've done is I think you built kind of a good undergrad baseline. Then you got a graduate degree, and now you've gone on to do I think what a lot of students would love to do after they graduate. So would you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody just so they kind of know who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. But first, as you said that, how, a lot of the kids watching don't know how to go about grad school or what it's going to look like. When I was a freshman in college, I for sure didn't know either. So they're not behind at all. They are right on track with going to grad school already. Um, so my name is McKenna Clifford, and I'm from Auburn, Indiana. It's the northeast corner. So I did my undergrad at Purdue University, and then I went on to Michigan State for a master's degree. I grew up on a row crop farm here in the county. I showed cattle and swine in 4-H and was always really involved in agriculture and knew that I wanted a career in it and just to keep giving back to the community that gave me so much. And that was both my home community and as well as the ag community. So now I work in Auburn as a financial advisor, which isn't really ag focused or similar to my degree. But it does give me the opportunity to, have clientele that is in the agriculture industry and to help them look at how financial planning can help them and better establish their farm and then generational planning as well. Um,
Well, I think
agriculture.
that's just an important point to make that, like, yeah, if you want to split hairs, not that many people are directly farming, but there are a lot of people who work with farmers. So, just because you're not necessarily operating, an input supplier or you're operating on farm, there are plenty of other ways that you can get involved in the industry. And I would say that your degree probably did, at some level, prepare you for what you're doing now. So what did you study in your undergrad?
So my undergrad was a agricultural business management focus. So I did a lot of economic classes though with that, and obviously the business management. Anything that says ag in front of it for economics or business management really just means the examples are around agriculture. I found. Um, so it's very relevant to everything else you do in life and other businesses too.
Did you do a bunch of extracurricular stuff too, or you just kind of stay in the books?
No, I was involved in quite a few clubs. Really, though, what helped me the most was working at the university. So there was a center called the Center for Food and Agricultural Business, and I did an internship there one summer. And really, what they do is professional development for industry professionals throughout agriculture. And through that, I kind of saw a lot of different things, a lot of different job opportunities, and then also just what, professors like yourself do. And that really sparked a flame in me that I wanted to, be like you and Jason Lusk, your advisor, and go to grad school.
So, I mean, I guess one nice thing about what that set you up for is that you made a lot of friends in the profession,
Hmm.
or just understanding how to network with these people. I think at a more personal level than just taking a class and getting an A or not.
Yeah.
Um,
And actually, the semester before my internship started, I had a class with Dr. Widmar, and I was just amazed by her. She was definitely my favorite professor I've ever had. And so then when my internship started, I come to find out she works for the center in the summer, and that's what she does. And so that really gave me a good reason to get to know her on a personal level. So I definitely encourage, any professor that you have that you think is kind of cool or kind of funny, but also quirky, or just anything you can relate to. Seek them out outside of the classroom and see what they're up to. See if you can help with any of their research or just even get lunch with them.
so, what kind of stuff did she kind of recommend you do to prepare to get a graduate degree, or did she convince you to get a graduate degree at all, or did you know you wanted to get a graduate degree?
Not at first when I took her course, no. And I actually kind of worked with her husband. He runs Economic Insights or Agricultural Economic Insights. And
Yeah.
so I worked for him too. And he was who recommended that I go for a grad degree. And he actually recommended it my junior year, right before my junior year started. And so I graduated from Purdue early. I didn't have a senior year or a senior lap, which was probably okay. But so he kind of recommended it, and then Nicole walked me through what it would look like, and she helped me prepare, my essays and get references.
So what does that look like preparing?
Yeah, so I had to take the GRE, which is a test kind of like the SATs. I took it twice just to, you always do better the second time just because you're more comfortable with it. And then write a few essays about, just yourself and what your intentions are for grad school and what motivates you. And then I had to do 3 letters of recommendations.
So yeah, I mean, 3 letters is pretty standard.
Mhm.
But like that's kind of hard when you like, you're an undergrad. I mean, finding 3 people that like somewhat have some type of expertise in the area that you're, but I guess, I mean, you did pretty well by working and connecting with people. Um,
Yeah, for me, it was probably easier than it is for most undergrads just because I did work with the center. So I was really close with a lot of those professors. But with people who aren't as well connected, maybe through an internship, I do have friends who, they would ask some of their professors who they just, did really well in their classes. And the professor probably knows what kind of student they are and can talk on that behalf.
so what classes did you take to prep, or did you think about that when you're taking classes?
I did not. I jumped into, graduating early and going to grad school, but I wish I would have, had it all prepared a little more. I did take an econometrics course, but I did not soak it in as much as I wish I would have once I got to grad school.
So what
Um,
classes do you wish you'd have taken?
Definitely the math classes, statistics, like a higher level. So at Purdue, we had to take a 300 level, which is a junior level. But I wish I would have done a higher level statistics. And then also calculus, econometrics.
What kind of calculus? Did you take any
I don't
calculus?
even know. No, I took calculus back in high school. I took AP, so then I didn't have to take
Brutal.
it at Purdue. Yeah, when I got to Michigan State, man, um, I mean, everyone in my class and cohort, they were all engineers and math majors. I was in the dust. I caught
I think that's
up,
one thing that
but
people don't realize, is
yeah.
like economics is like it's fun. It's there's a lot of moving parts and you can think about all this stuff, but the way that the lens is tried and set up is through logic, and math is a test of logic. And so, I wasn't going to survive, without linear algebra, differential
Mhm.
calculus, all of these math classes that I mean were super important for grad school. In our PhD program in Michigan State, I'd say you wouldn't survive without real analysis. Um,
Right.
and so, I mean, how much of that first semester do you feel like you were just like trying to play catch up on math?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did catch up pretty quickly. It took me, I feel like I had to work harder than the rest of my cohort, but also, I mean, there was benefits to me having the ag background in our major. So
Yeah.
that's the nice thing though
Talk
about
about that.
grad
Yeah.
school. Yeah,
What's
the
that?
nice thing about grad school is you really work together as a team. At least my cohort did. Um, you play on each other's strengths and go to each other to help answer questions. But yeah, having the ag background definitely helped me more just understand where farmers are coming from and see the other side of, the surveys and what we're asking of farmers.
Well, and yeah, talk a little bit about like what we did with getting people on farm with you, and how few of them actually knew anything about what the hell was going on.
Right. Yeah. So my family here in the county has a robotic dairy farm, and it's completely robotic. The barn is robotic and self-regulating. The milkers are big robots. everything's robotic. It's awesome. But we hosted 2 different tours where, the grad students would come down and see everything, how it works and all of it. And most of them had never been on a farm before or seen dairy cows up close, which is kind of crazy when you're, dealing with master's and PhD students in an agriculture program. I guess I was expecting more ag background when I went to MSU for a grad degree, and I was one of the only people there with an ag background.
Well, I think that gets to this math problem, right? That
Mhm.
that like that there is such a high level of math expectations that not only would you have to be, with an ag background, but you'd also be able to have to get through the math component, and that combo is not. It's a challenge. It's a very small percentage of the American population that
Mhm.
even is involved in agriculture. It's even smaller when you start thinking about kids or people in college that are involved, because most farmers are like way old. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an uphill battle to be able to fill out that roster. So I mean that led into what I think was kind of an at least sort of interesting master's thesis for you. You want to talk about your thesis a little bit?
Yeah. So my thesis was about a new grazing style that's adaptive multi-paddock grazing. And it's kind of just a ramped up form of rotational grazing, but it's actually being found to put carbon back into the soil rather than taking it from the soil. So I think it's going to be really big. It's good for the animals, good for bottom lines. It's just all around really awesome. And so my look at it was more so on the behavioral side. And that's kind of funny because when you think of economics, you just think of numbers, I guess, or most people do. But really looking at, why do people do what they do and what motivates people, what kind of economic or financial motivation might be necessary to make it more doable or people do it more often. So that's what I looked at is why do people, either use conventional, non-rotational grazing, or why do they use this rotational grazing? And then also looking at, if we offer a premium for the meat grown on these rotational grazing farms, um, what would that premium need to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I mean, it's super important questions. I think moving forward in the next few years, we're going to see a lot more climate policy,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's, I mean, understanding those questions is going to, I think, have a lot of relevance to what we do moving forward with ag policy in the United States.
Yeah. Well, and just I don't know. I think even, the work that you do is super fun. I don't know how much you share with your students, kind of what research you do, but one that I always share with the like high schoolers that I talk to when I talk about grad school is, when you look up at a package, what is the first thing you look at and what draws your eyes to that?
Mm.
What do you value on a package? Like when you're looking at, a can or stuff like that. I think that stuff's really cool. And so I share that because most people are like, that's not agricultural research.
Sure.
Well, no, not with my Red Bull, but when you're looking at, apples grown in Michigan, it is. So I think that's fun.
Yeah. So, okay, what else did you not know about grad school, or do you think that people don't know about grad school that you wish you'd have known when you were starting to think about what to do after your undergrad?
So I didn't know that people actually do cool research. Growing up, I always thought research was for nerds and was super boring, or done in like a lab. So the research side is awesome, and that's definitely underappreciated. But then the biggest thing is that you can get paid to go. So not only do they pay for your schooling and pay for, you know, all of your tuition, they also pay you a salary to be a student and to help an advisor do research, which is super cool. And actually, one of the kids in my cohort didn't even know that when he applied to Michigan State. His letter like said something about them paying, and he's like, "Wait, what? I'm like, you applied and you didn't even know they were going to pay you? Wow, you really wanted to be here." um, so
Well,
yeah,
I
that's
think you're right.
awesome.
I mean, there are a lot of graduate programs out there that people actually do pay for.
Hmm.
Like if you want to go get an MBA, a lot of times, unless you can find a business that's willing to pay for your
Right.
MBA, I knew a lot of folks that were paying out of pocket for it.
Hmm.
So like when I found a master's in ag econ, it blew my mind that like they were just going to cover it for me.
Hmm.
I graduated in the middle of the Great Recession, so like there were no jobs, and so like what else was I going to do? And Yeah, I mean, Ag Econ was great from there. But you're right.
Mhm.
I think most people don't know that you get paid to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a real job though. Like I mean, there are expectations.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, you're doing research and helping a faculty member like yourself with their research. Um, but I think it's really rewarding work, and you get a degree out of it, which is amazing.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, so you graduated from Michigan State.
Mhm.
Do you wish you had thought about like going to a bunch of other places, or was there like you wanted to stay or you wanted to go to Michigan State for a specific reason, or what was the decision process like in choosing where to go? Because that's the next thing is like, okay, I figured out I want to get this degree, but where would I even start to think about where to get the degree at?
Right. And I think this is another part where finding a faculty member that can help guide you through this process is really important. So this is where Dr. Widmar really came in handy too. Is she helped me identify several schools to apply to, and I kind of applied to some lower level schools just because I was graduating early with no math background. So I needed kind of some backup per se. Um, but then really just identifying who you want to work with. That's super important,
Sure.
is identifying just what research you find interesting and who as a faculty member you think you would be a good fit with and get along with to work with. But Dr. Widmar did her master's and PhD at Michigan State, so obviously it was close and near and dear to her heart, and she was pretty persuasive on it. And but she was right. It's a great school, and it's really close to my home too. So MSU is actually closer than Purdue to the family farm, and that was definitely a
Yeah, you
good
did go home a
motivator.
lot. That's true.
Yeah, I did.
So well, cool. Well, I appreciate you talking to us, and it's I think everybody's kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do after they graduate, and
Mhm.
that's a scary question because you graduate from high school and you think like, okay, obviously I'm probably going to go to college. So then you go to
Mhm.
college and they say, "What's your major?" And you're like, I don't know. I'm an 18-year-old kid, and then the next thing you know, you're like fixing to graduate, and you're like, oh my god, like I got to have a plan after this.
Right.
um, I think the earlier that people can start, I don't know, considering their options or thinking about grad school, the better, and making those contacts. Like three reference letters. I think it's kind of overwhelming for some people. Like, who do you even ask?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really know who I should ask. I had a couple
Mhm.
professors that I knew fairly well, but three's it's a non-trivial number.
Yeah. No, and it is absolutely.
Yeah. Well, cool. I appreciate it, McKenna. Thank you
Yeah.
for talking to my class, and
Yeah.
uh, congratulations on the job.
Yes. Thank you very much. Feel free to share my contact information with your class, and if anyone has personal questions, I would love to talk with them about it and help give some guidance because I do think it's really important to start considering grad school now.
Awesome. Thanks.